Hey guys, so today, as kind of a lead in to next week's NHL live stream, I figured we do a brief live stream where we go about talking and ranking in a tier list the NHL reverse retro jerseys. There have been two series that have come out of this reverse retro idea. Um, 32 teams. Every team has had two except the Kraken, so that leaves 63 jerseys. Hopefully, we can do this in about an hour, so we'll try to fly through this thing. But what we're gonna do is take this tier maker and go through every reverse retro jersey in both the 2020 and 2022 series, where we think they belong, possibly what ways they could improve, and feel free to discuss it in the comments below. This will be uploaded to the channel, so if you're watching this after the live stream, let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with, and where we can improve. So we'll start. You probably can't see it because of my face in the bottom corner, but we are going to start with the 2020 Colorado Avalanche. So that's the white jersey with the burgundy and blue reverse retro version of the Quebec Nordiques. I think we start this one all the way up in S tier. If we look this one up on Google so we can get the full picture, my favorite thing about this jersey, first of all, I think the white backdrop puts it above and beyond in terms of the potential of this jersey. I think they really could have screwed it up with the burgundy background. And they could have screwed it up with the blue. And I think the white makes the burgundy pop that much more. I love the fleur-de-lis pattern at the bottom. I think all of this looks spectacular. The only thing I think could be improved on is maybe I'd be interested in seeing what it would look like with burgundy numbers with blue outline. But all in all, I think this is a solid jersey. It looks phenomenal on the ice. I think they hit it out of the park the first time. But then we'll move to their 2020 edition, and that is the updated Colorado Rockies jersey with the C in the original Rockies and Scouts colors. For this one, I think the C ends up in C. If we look at this one here, I don't care for that color scheme. I understand that it is historical for the, well, actually for the, more so for the New Jersey Devils franchise, but for the city of Denver and the state of Colorado in hockey. It's not a bad hockey jersey. I don't love the color scheme, and I think there's a lot more they could have done with it. Essentially, it's just an Avalanche jersey with different colors and a different logo. There's nothing spectacular about it. There's nothing that really stands out. To me, it just says, hey, look at what could have happened if we kept the original franchise name. So for me, that one ends up in the C tier. Next, we're going to go with the original 2020 St. Louis Blues. So that's the red one with the classic Blues logo. For me, this one I'm going to put in the B tier. It kind of harkens back to the 1990s Brett Hall days. If we look it up here, let's see here. Blues Reverse Retro 2020. There's a lot going on here. It's kind of busy. It's got kind of the same color scheme as the Avalanche Rockies one. One thing I don't love is the yellow numbers. I think it could have looked better with either blue or white numbers as opposed to the yellow. I think they're trying to do a little too much with the yellow in these. But I like the callback to the original like 90s alternates. I don't think they look bad. I just think they're, with the color scheme they have, there's a lot more they could have done to make it look a little cleaner. All right, we have those there. Next, we're going to go with the original 2020 Boston Bruins. Now, the Bruins is a tricky case because their logo is so iconic that there's not much you want to do outside of the classic B. But they did the 80s, 90s throwback with yellow. For me, I'm going to put it in the C tier, but ahead of the Avalanche Rockies. And we'll look it up here so I can explain my reasoning. with how many Winter Classic and Stadium Series jerseys that the Bruins have had, I don't think there's a lot of different options that you can do with this jersey. I think the striping actually makes it look better. I do really like the decision to have a yellow stripe in the middle, surrounded by the white. I think that makes it look unique compared to some of the other Bruins throwbacks and Bruins alternate uniforms. I don't love this classic B as much as some other people do. I think the current B design looks a lot better. It's got a lot more detail, a lot more character to it. This one is historical, but it's a little bland. But all in all, not a terrible jersey. I just, for the reasons I gave about how many alternate jerseys the Bruins have had over the years, I think C tier, top of C tier is kind of a good place for this one to land. Sticking with the Bruins, we have their 2022 uniforms, which is not the Meth Bear, but it is just the lazy brown bear, I guess, for lack of a better term. I'm putting this in D tier. It's not horrible enough to put in the F tier, and I do like the piping, but that logo really throws everything out of proportion. To me, I like the bottom piping. Here, let's see if I can get a better view for you. I like this kind of scratch, shaky idea at the bottom of the screen here, but if you look up top, here's a picture of Marchand in the uniform. If you look up top, the Bruins piping up on the shoulders kind of makes it look like a junior league jersey, and I think that really takes this jersey down. Again, that logo, I really don't like. I think the coloring on the numbers, there's a little too much going on. Too many layers, and I think it could look a lot better. Here's an example. This is from the Canon. This is an idea of what it could look like with different coloring. I think that looks better. I think even though it looks a little more like a junior uniform up on the shoulders there, I think it looks better and more different from the Bruins' usual, that it could stand out a little more with yellow instead of black as the primary color underneath the white uniform. So I think this one, simply because of the logo, ends up in D tier. I really just don't care. It's a really boring and historical logo, but there's not a lot going on there. Next, we do the original Canes 2020. That's the gray Whalers uniforms. I want to rank these lower than I should, but I will put it B tier, high B tier. Whalers uniforms, it's going to be hard to look bad with. Hurricanes reverse retro. I think the Whalers have such a unique logo and color scheme that it's going to be hard to look bad in them, and they look really good on the ice, especially with the green gloves and the green breezers and the green helmets. They do look really good on the ice. My qualms with it, I don't care for the gray. I know they were trying to be a little different. I almost think it would have looked better if it were white. But all in all, it's not a bad uniform. I think it works really well. In harkening back to the Whalers franchise, I don't love it as a Hurricanes jersey just because the color scheme and the idea of the franchise is so different. But it looks good on the ice. I don't have too many complaints about it. I don't love the idea of the gray, so that's why it stays in B tier, not all the way up in A tier. Next, we have the new Hurricanes 2022 version. That's the one that just says Canes. What I don't love about this is, well, first of all, we're going to put it in high C tier, above the Bruins, and I'll show you why. So I would love this uniform idea, especially the Canes word mark, if it were on black. So the reason that these squares are red is that's the Seaman's warning, the hurricane flag, the warning hurricane coming or warning major weather coming. So you can't change the colors of the flags, but putting it on a red background kind of limits the visibility of it and limits kind of where the impact of the logo should come out more. I think it would look a lot better on black, or look more distinct on black. I do like that they kept the piping that they've had on their uniforms for years at the bottom here, the square pattern continuing on the bottom. But otherwise, there's not a lot really going on with this uniform. It's just that bottom piping. Otherwise, it's a pretty plain uniform. So we'll keep it in C, but we'll keep it high C because I do really like that word mark idea. I'm going to be biased with this one because the next one is the original Canucks 2020. As an improve, so we're going to put it low B tier. And for those of you that don't know the background of this uniform, in the mid-2000s, I think probably around 2004, 2005, there was a Canucks uniform that was essentially just like this, except instead of green, it was red, and it really didn't look good. Here's a picture of it. The blue doesn't blend into the red very well, and it was worth the try when it happened, but people really didn't like it. So when they brought it back, the blue meshes with the green, I think, really effectively. And maybe I'm just saying that because I'm a Canucks fan. I like the numbers. The numbers are kind of busy, but I like that it's just a white and blue transition rather than trying to throw green in there as a third color in the numbers. I like the light blue piping around the Orca. That's new. That's something the Canucks have never done before. And it also does fade into a darker blue. The one qualm I do have about it, I don't love the pattern of the striping. I think it looks too much like a Stars uniform on the sleeves. But all in all, it's not terrible. And for me, I genuinely want to put it higher, but I know that most of that is me just being a Canucks fan. And so just out of fairness, I will keep it in low B tier. But if you guys disagree and think it should be higher, let me know in the comments. Next is the original 2020 Capitals. So this is the classic Screeching Eagle, but with the red and blue color scheme. Is it A? It's not quite A tier. So I will put it below the Whalers, but above the Blues in B tier. Let's look this one up here. Capitals, reverse retro 2020. My reasoning for that is, and it's the same reasoning I'm going to have with they're basically the same uniform, both the 2020 and 2022 versions, and we'll come across this with the Sabres too. I understand this is how it was, but I don't love the Capitals word mark at the bottom. I think it really takes away from the uniform. I like the slanted piping that matches the stripe, but I think that really takes away from the rest of the uniform. I think it really poorly meshes with the logo. I think it's a little too busy for its own good, and I don't love the numbers. I understand that it's a throwback uniform, and that's what it was, and that's what they're trying to emulate, but I really don't care for the number font. I understand that it's historical, but we will put that one in B tier and then follow up with the black version, the current 2022 version. I'm going to put it high D tier. I understand it's historical, but I don't love that color scheme. I know Washington, both the Capitals and the Wizards, tried that black, dull blue, dull gold kind of color scheme in the early 2000s. And I know it's nostalgic, especially for a lot of Capital fans, but for me, for the reasons I gave about why I don't like the red uniform that much, I really don't like it even more because of the color scheme. And so that's why this one drops down to a D tier. Moving on, we're going to go to the original Devils 2020. That's the green throwback. I really like these. I'm going to put them in A tier. So for those unfamiliar with these ones, the original Devils reverse retro, essentially they just flipped the colors of their classic red and green uniform and made green the primary instead of red. It's fascinating to me that they've never done this before. even before the Reverse Retro series. It shocks me that they've never tried a full green uniform the way they have here. I think it looks phenomenal. I like the color green a lot, and I think they have enough piping on here where it makes the green and the red stand apart. Whereas I think one of the issues that the Minnesota Wild have come across is too much clashing with the different tones of green and red that they have. And I think the Devils handle this perfectly. One thing I don't love is the green helmet and the red breezers. I think a singular color would make them look a little better on ice, but in terms of the jersey itself, I think this is an A-tier jersey. I think it looks really professional, really well done, and a really good throwback, harkening back to the original color scheme of the New Jersey Devils. Next, we move on to their 2022 uniforms. Essentially, what this is a white version of their current jersey, but with the Kansas City Scouts, Colorado Rockies colors. I've already mentioned I don't love that color scheme. I think they actually do a really good job with them. I'm tempted to either put it high C or the lowest possible B. I'm going to put it high C. I don't love the color scheme. I think they make it look decent here. I think it would look a lot better without the yellow. I understand why they have the yellow. It's not a bad looking uniform necessarily, but I'm just not a fan of that color scheme. I think, actually, I like this even less. And the reason I like this even less is I don't like blue being a part of the New Jersey Devils color scheme. Not a horrible jersey. I just think it's pretty average. And so that's why I'm going to put it in C tier. The original Wild Wing. A lot of people love this, and I'm sorry. It's too busy. It's too cartoonish for me. I'm going to put it right smack. Actually, I'm going to put it above the Canes, but I'm going to put it right smack in C tier. And the reason is, for those reasons I just gave, it's a classic color scheme, but it's not a good color scheme. The teal purple thing, there's a reason it was left in the 90s, not just in hockey, not just for the Ducks, but I look at football, and the Jaguars, for the most part, have left their... they kept the teal, but they've really dialed it back. The San Antonio Spurs have gotten rid of all of their, except for their retros, but going into the new millennia, they really got rid of their teal and pink ideas. I just think this logo itself is a little too cartoonish. If we look at the rest of the uniform here, see, for me that reads playful, but I don't love it. I think this font is a little too silly for its own good. I think the black striping is unnecessary. I don't think it fits the rest of the uniform. I think even if it were purple, it would look better, but I think it would really look a lot better without the black and instead have teal. There's just way too much going on in this jersey. The fact that Wild Wing is wearing the jersey in the jersey itself, there's a lot going on, and I think it's to this jersey's detriment. So we will place it solidly right smack in the middle of C tier. And then we have the current Ducks Reverse Retro, the 2022 version. This is essentially their classic Wild Wing upgrade to the current color scheme. I don't mind their current color scheme. The one thing I don't like is the gold as part of it. I think the gold and the orange really clash against each other. So the fact that they are lined up in this uniform as part of a diagonal striping is to this uniform's detriment. Otherwise, it's not a bad jersey. This one I will put low B tier. I'll put it below the Canucks. I don't hate that jersey very much. Like I said, my qualms with the new Wild Wing classic logo with the current color scheme. They've tried it before. This isn't a reverse retro new thing. They have tried it before, and the one thing, like I said, that I have qualms about is the lining up of the gold against the orange. Next, we have the original Flames 2020, the Flaming Horse idea. I love the Flaming Horse logo. Even as a Canucks fan who hates the Flames, I think of the classic Jerome McGinley days. It's nostalgic to me as a child who grew up in the 2000s, who got to see this uniform in all of my video games, that kind of thing, and my internet isn't loading very quickly, but there we have it. I like the chevron shaped piping here. I think it's a really good looking uniform. I like that they went for the white numbers as opposed to either red or yellow. I think those could have been detrimental in making the uniform look a little over colorized, if that makes any sense. I don't love the font. This italicized kind of, I don't know how to describe it. Industrial is the best way I could. Well, actually, no. That's on the current uniform. I'm looking here. Even this is a little too italicized for me. I don't know what you want to call that font idea, but that's my only issue. I'm tempted to put this A tier, and I will. And I'm actually, yeah, I'll put it below the Devils. But to me, that's an A tier uniform. However, then they come out with their 2022 reverse retro, and I have a lot of issues with this uniform. And like I said, I'll try not to be biased, but as a Canucks fan, I like seeing them fail at uniforms. I think bringing back this martial arts belt tuck that they had on their old uniforms. Here's an example of what that used to look like, or here's a better idea. I have no idea what the jersey designers were thinking in the first place, and I don't know why you would bring it back. This is an idea that I will talk about later with the new Lightning uniform. But I think it makes the uniform look tacky, unorganized. I like the white flame logo over the black. I think it looks really nice. I wish they had done a little different piping up top. I don't think the red straight into the black looks as effective as it could with like a little white pipe or a little gold pipe to kind of separate the two colors. For me, this is a low, because of the tuck pattern, it's low D tier, if not F tier, but I'll be generous and I will put it low D tier. Flyers have terrible uniforms. My wife really likes the Flyers on account of gritty, and I don't blame her. But first of all, let's see. Their first one was the orange version. Now, I have seen this jersey design work. The North Iowa Bulls, they're a North American Hockey League team. Their color scheme is kind of like the Canucks. It's more of a dark blue, like a navy and a green, and they use this uniform template, and I think it looks really good. But with the orange and the black, oh man, I think this looks really tacky. I do. Low C, high D tier. And I can't put a pin on it as to why I hate it so much, but I really do. Yeah, I'll put it below the Capitals here, but it's just something about the curve pattern, the way it looks, and especially with the orange and black, it just makes my skin crawl. And I'm sorry for all the Flyers fans out there that have this as one of their uniforms. Next is their current one. To me, this is just bland. There's not really a lot going on except for the fact that they wear pants now instead of breezers, which I also hate. It's a bold decision. It's a cool decision. I mean, I wear pants in men's league, but it makes it look very unprofessional. But I will try to keep that out of my mind when I think about this uniform in general, because we're just talking about the jersey, right? I want to like it, but I really don't. there's just nothing here. And as much as I hate the color orange, I wish there was more orange in it. It just, to me, screams lack of ideas. I see in that uniform the same problems that I see with like the Stars original and the Red Wings original. And I want to be generous, but genuinely, I think this is an F tier jersey. It's way too plain for my liking. Next, we move on to the original Canadiens. Now, this is just the regular Canadiens uniform, but they flipped the colors between the red and blue, and I really like that. It's been something I have been saying. Well, not that I have any credence over it or voice to be heard in this argument, but I think this is something the Canadiens should have been doing for a long time. I think this is the obvious alternate uniform idea for them, and I think it works really well. I think they look good in just this royal blue. I don't know if it deserves to be A tier, but I'll put it B tier, and I will put it above the Whalers. No, it's A tier. It's A tier. I've decided. It looks really clean. It's the obvious progression from their regular red uniforms. It's clean. It's classic. The fact that it hasn't been done before is shocking. But then we move on to their 2022 versions, and the colors do look good. The light blue and the regular blue look good. I don't like that the number on the back is blue. What my biggest issue with this uniform is when I see it on the ice, nothing about it says Canadiens to me. So every time I see highlights where they're wearing this uniform, to me, I have an issue trying to figure out who that team is. And I think that is detrimental to what even these reverse retro uniforms are supposed to represent. You're supposed to still be able to recognize the team with the uniform. And for me, I understand that it harkens back to the original logo, but I think that's detrimental to the identity of the team. And so I'm going to put this one top of D tier. Because it's a good-looking uniform. It just has issues characteristically. Next, the original Blackhawks uniforms. I'll pull them up here so you can see them. The original 2020 Blackhawks Reverse Retro. It's the classic native head. And it's got a lot less stripes than the original throwback. I wish the bottom had white piping, but all in all, it's not a bad uniform. Everything about it screams Blackhawks alternate to me. I don't have an issue with it. I think it's a pretty bland uniform, to be honest with you. I think there's more they could have done with it. I'll put it below the Bruins in C tier. And then we come to the 2022 version, and I do have serious qualms about this one. I understand that they're trying to move away from the native head as a logo. And genuinely, I wouldn't have an issue with this uniform were it not the exact same as the Detroit uniform in the same series. They're kind of going for like this big Broadway, like 1920s Chicago flair style with the lettering. Excuse me. One more. I understand what they're going for. They're going for kind of a showpiece, like a theater lettering. I call it Broadway. It's not necessarily just New York and Broadway, but the striping is too busy. I think the number looks really ridiculous on the back with all of the striping, and the striping starts too low so that the nameplate looks poor. You don't necessarily see it with a name like Blackhawks here, but when I pull up this Kane uniform, and let's see if it'll take me to the NHL shop here, but see how small that nameplate looks compared to the rest of the jersey? And even them trying to get away from the Blackhawks logo, they still have it on the shoulder. And to me, it's a failure. Not enough of a failure to put it in F tier, but I am going to put it in the lowest possible place in the D tier. And we'll come back to it when we come across the Detroit logo and see what we think about it. We are just not quite halfway. I've been doing this for about 45 minutes here. So now we'll move on to the Islanders. The original Islanders 2020 version, kind of bland. I'm going to pull it up just so I can revive my memory on the rest of the uniform here. Essentially, it's just a darkened version of their normal uniform. It's got the navy instead of the royal blue. Nothing about it really stands out. I do like the bold choice of the massive stripes. But other than that, I mean, this is just a normal uniform. Nothing about this stands out. So I'm going to put this right below the Capitals in D tier, just for lack of imagination with it. And I know that I sound like a hypocrite when I compare that to something like the Ducks and the Wild Wing uniform. There's a lot I like about the Islanders jersey. I just think there's a lot missing. That's an argument that might take me a while to get into as to why I like one and don't like the other, or my ideas of what a perfect meshing of originality and not too much complexity. There's such thing as going too light and such thing as going too overboard. And I think both of these uniforms are on opposite sides of that spectrum. But I do really like the Islanders' new reverse retro with the fish sticks logo. This is a unique case where they took a logo and a uniform idea that wasn't necessarily beloved, but an idea that fans wanted to be returned to. And I think they took away all of the problems with the original uniform. This bizarre wavy piping at the bottom. When they came out with these uniforms, it was too much. And so what the jersey designers for the reverse retro idea understood is we need to take it back. We need to focus on what is important and get rid of all of the flaws. And they've done this with the new piping. I don't love the dimensions of the piping. I think it looks a little unprofessional. It's a little too... One is too big, one's too small, and there's not really any uniformity to it. But I think this is a solid B tier uniform. There's not really much I would change about it. Not much I would adjust. Force of habit, I just opened Excel. I will close that real quick. Force quit. But I think this is a solid B tier uniform, and I am going to put it above the Capitals. Should I put it? Nah, I'm not going to put it above the Whalers, but I will put it above the Capitals. A team that has really struggled with reverse retro uniforms, in my opinion, are the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think the Blue Jackets have had phenomenal alternate uniforms historically, and they've really struggled to bring them out in the reverse retro series. I understand why they would go back to the original CB logo, but everything else about this uniform, the font, the color scheme, the design of the jersey itself, I think is really poor. I think having a blue stripe at the bottom, especially a dark blue stripe, and then you have the entire outside of the jersey with this unbordered white, is a swing for the fences and an absolute miss, in my opinion. I think these jerseys look really cartoony, really poor, and kind of like someone thought of it either at the last moment or had a really good idea and just didn't go back and refine it. And for me, stop opening Excel. I'm really tempted to put them in F tier. You know what? I'm going to be generous to the Flyers, and I'm going to put this jersey in F tier. And then another uniform that is not good are their current 2022 versions. And the reason I say that is they basically took their current uniforms, and I think it is a different. Blue Jackets fans could tell me if it's a different font. I actually don't know if it's a different font than their normal uniforms. And actually, looking at this jersey, I don't hate it as much as I think I do, but I don't think the blues mesh very well together. I don't like the star pattern on the side of the uniform. To me, this looks just like they tried to change their current uniform just slightly, and they did it in all of the wrong ways. It's not a terrible uniform. I don't love it in any particular fashion. And so, for me, where is this going to end up? D tier. We'll put it above the Flyers in D tier. D tier's getting kind of packed. We need some superior jerseys. Here's one that comes close, but is not necessarily a superior uniform for the reason that I've given before about I don't love the color gray in uniforms. But the original Jets reverse retro from 2020 is gray and navy and looks pretty good, actually. I don't think the dark gray and the navy work that well together, and I think the numbering suffers in the gray, at least, from having a light blue piping around it. Otherwise, this jersey is pretty solid. I'm tempted to put it in B tier, kind of the bottom of B tier. I'm going to put it above the Ducks, but not next to the Canucks. And then the Jets 2022 uniforms. I like the color scheme. I like the idea of the thick piping. There's nothing I really hate about this uniform. I just don't think it's that spectacular necessarily. And I don't love it as much as the original. But it's still a good-looking uniform. Top of C tier. I want to like it so much more. And I don't know why I don't like it more. But I don't. So I'm putting it top of C tier. Kings. Los Angeles Kings original reverse retro was the 90s Wayne, I almost said Gordie Howe. The original Wayne Gretzky logo fitted to a New Jersey style and the original purple and gold LA color scheme. I think this jersey would look so much better if it had a different logo. I think this might be the worst of the Kings logos. I know it's nostalgic. I know it's the Gretzky thing. But in terms of a visual design, I think this is the worst of the Kings logos. And I think it takes the rest of this uniform down. Otherwise, good-looking uniform. I don't hate that they keep bringing back the purple and gold color scheme. I think especially playing in the arena that they do, I think it really attracts non-hockey fans, especially basketball fans, to something like the LA Kings, which is something that teams in markets like that should be doing. I think it's a C-tier uniform, and I'm going to put it above Wild Wing. And I know that's going to anger a lot of Ducks fans. I like that uniform. The only problem I have is this logo, and this logo looks even tackier because of the change in the color scheme. Kings current reverse retros, you get a little glimpse of it there. It's got that weird circular arm piping that I don't love. Everything else about this uniform works to me. But I don't like that arm piping. So I'm tempted to also put this C tier, and I'm tempted to put it lower. In fact, I am going to put it lower. Because of the weird circular piping, I am going to put it above the Blackhawks in the C tier there. Golden Knights. The original is horrible. I don't care what you want to say. I understand that they don't have a lot of options, but the original Golden Knights reverse retro uniforms with the red and the Vegas alternate star do not look good. One thing I do like about these uniforms is the bold stripe pattern. I do like the chevron stripes. To me, this uniform would look that much better with the helmet logo. And I know they overuse that logo on all of their uniforms, but I think it would look really good on the red. And so the only thing that tears this jersey down is that logo. It is not just, even as an alternate logo, you can't just put an alternate logo on a uniform. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. There are uniform-worthy alternate logos. The Canucks have a lot, and actually, I don't think I don't think the stick in the rink is one of them. I don't think the stick in the rink should be on Canucks uniforms, and I say that as a Canucks fan, even though that's our original logo. I don't think it works. But this logo is a shoulder logo. It's not a front of the jersey logo, so it doesn't work. And it's to the uniform's detriment, and that takes this jersey down to at least D tier. And yeah, I'm going to put it at the bottom. No. That's because the rest of the uniform looks good to me. I'm going to put it there. Sorry, Flames fans, but you deserve it. However, the Golden Knights' current reverse retros, I don't care for the glow-in-the-dark letters. I really don't care that they glow in the dark. I think this is a good-looking uniform. I think everything about this says originality, but it still says Vegas Golden Knights. I love the font. I think it works really well for Vegas. I don't like the number font that much. To me, that looks a little Halloween-y, if that makes any sense. But everything else, the striping is good. The word mark is great. The coloring with the rest of the uniform, the socks, the breezers, the helmet, I think looks fantastic. To me, this is an A-tier uniform. Not S-tier, A-tier. And I actually am going to put it above the Flames. Actually, okay, I'm going to reorganize this. I'm going to put it above the Flames, but I'm going to also put the Flames at the bottom of the A tier. I still really love those uniforms, but I think all of these ones that I've put in A tier deserve to be above it. Props to the Kraken. They went bold and got really busy with the striping, and I think it works beautifully. I think this is a beautiful uniform, given as minimal as it is. They took a busy stripe pattern and they made it work. I think it looks phenomenal behind the S logo. I think the Kraken not only have one of the best names of any franchise, I think they have one of the best logos of any franchise. Excuse me while I check my notifications real quick. And back to the Kraken here. Apologies for that. Apologies for dead air. I think the numbering fits perfectly on the back. I think eliminating white from this jersey works perfectly. I think just having those two colors bounce off of each other look phenomenal. To me, this is also an A-tier jersey. That might be controversial, but I'm going to put this at the bottom of A tier, below the Flames, and I'm not going to change my mind on that. Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs have a jersey problem. Part of it is their best logo, and their only good logo, in my opinion, is the one that they currently have on their uniform. And so when you bring back not great minimalist logos like this, and then you don't do anything around them to support them, this is easily, to me, a D tier uniform. I don't like the single striping on the sides. I don't like the single thick stripe at the bottom. If it was a thick double stripe, I think it would look better, kind of like the Islanders. But nothing about this uniform screams, I want to wear it. And I like the Maple Leafs. As an American, I have to like the Maple Leafs. Because A, Toronto's the only city anybody in America knows. B, Austin Matthews. So this is going actually in the bottom of D tier. I'm putting this below Chicago. Their current reverse retros, 2022. Those are going to be these double stripes. See, I think these look a lot better. Now, what sets these apart from their normal uniforms? And I say that as a hockey fan, and other hockey fans are going to kill me. Maple Leafs, normal jersey. Single stripe at the bottom. Double stripes on the sides. Double stripe at the bottom. Shoulders. So all this really does is change the jersey style. And I'm not opposed to that because I think this is the best option that they really had without going all out. They could have gone green. They could have done the St. Pat's Classic. They could have done the current Maple Leafs logo and jersey style with a green color scheme. There's a lot more they could have done, but they didn't. And they kept it minimalist, but it doesn't look bad. So I'm putting this in C tier. And I'm going to put it above the Blackhawks, but below the Kings. Original Tampa Bay. Original Lightning Reverse Retro 2020. I don't like the single big stripe. I like that they added black to it. I like that they brought back the original logo. High C tier. For those reasons I've just given. High C tier. Where is this going C tier? I'm going to put it right there after the Jets. You know what? No. Jets are going to B tier after the Ducks. And that's how we're keeping it. Their current uniforms are bad. They are really, really bad. I've heard a lot of Lightning fans defend that their uniforms are what they wanted and are better than the Florida Panthers' current reverse retros. They are not. This is an example of something that you should have left in the past or tried to change, and you made it worse. Where do we start? First of all, it's busy. Oh, they're so bad. I'm looking at them with my full attention for the first time, right? I've seen them before, but I am now just looking at the specific details of this uniform. Look at the number font. To me, that doesn't scream Lightning. That screams a scratch. So, Wild, Bruins, Predators, maybe Sabres. To me, that doesn't scream Lightning. That screams unoriginal tearing of fabric. I like the arced number plate, or nameplates, excuse me. I like the original logo. I like the gray shoulders. I like the navy armpits and sleeves. That's all. The rain is too busy. They knew that. They knew that the rain was too busy and they brought it back. The waves at the bottom of the uniform are too busy. What they could have done is, and it may not have worked either, but something they could have done to change it from the original idea is do a kind of not like a wavy pattern the way the Islanders did, but take stripes and make it have that kind of Japanese wave looking idea at the bottom. That could have been interesting. They didn't do that, and they made half of this uniform hard for me to look at. And the worst thing about this uniform, by far, is adding yellow and what doesn't even look like lightning, but instead looks like a death metal band logo to the arms on the side here. And you add all of those terrible ideas up, and it doesn't make it good. It makes it the worst uniform in this entire series. Okay, Detroit's 2020 is the worst uniform by far, but this is bad. This is not good. It's not even ironically funny. It's bad. It is the second worst NHL uniform in the entire reverse retro series. I am putting that at the bottom. Okay, moving on from that jolly note, the original Oilers reverse retro 2020. See, I don't remember this one, so I got to jog my memory. These are bright. Very bright. And I'm trying to think of how I feel about them. There's a lot of things I like and a lot of things I don't like. I like that they went for the orange shoulders and the orange breezers. That's a bold decision, and I don't think it looks horrible. And I say that as someone whose least favorite color and one who the color physically makes uncomfortable. I don't like the color orange. I think it works in that aspect. I don't think the orange numbers work. I think this uniform would look a lot better with blue numbers and nameplate. I understand why they didn't do that, but that drags it down for me. This is a little too much orange. I don't think it's bad. It's either really low C tier or really high D tier. And because of the fact that I put the Montreal Canadiens light blues in D, this one has to go in D tier, and I'm going to put it above the Islanders but below the Capitals. 2022, the oil drop is not good, first of all. The one thing I would point out about this uniform is the original oil drop logo works because of the way it's colored, right? It looks okay because of the way it's colored. Having the oil drop orange doesn't make sense from a creative and logistical idea. That being said, there's a lot of logos that don't make sense having things colored the way they are. But in this uniform, having the only orange piece at the front of your logo be detrimental to the logo itself takes away. I think I like a lot. I like the fonts. I really actually do like the fonts on this uniform. I like the size of the stripes. I like where the numbers are placed in the stripes. So to me, this is a solid C uniform with the potential to be a high B tier uniform were the logo colored differently. But I have to, for that sake, put it in C tier, and I'm going to split the Kings and the Ducks here. Original Panthers. Fun fact, and you'll probably actually see me wear it on a live stream eventually. I have the original Panthers reverse retro as a sweatshirt. So, backstory for those that don't know my hockey story, and you probably don't because I've never talked about it on stream before. The reason I became a Canucks fan is when I was 8 years old, I chose a hockey team at random, right? Growing up where I do, the closest team is the Minnesota Wild, but it's not necessarily my home team because of where I live. And so I have the unique opportunity and option to choose who I want to cheer for without people around me necessarily seeing that as a bad thing. And so I chose the Florida Panthers. They were really bad. And as an 8-year-old kid, that was hard. And I really liked their goaltender because their goaltender was really good. And that at the time was, of course, Roberto Luongo. When he was traded to the Vancouver Canucks, I followed him. and have stayed a Canucks fan ever since because of the fact that when I was 11 years old, they made the Stanley Cup Finals, and regardless of them losing, that was impactful for me as a fan of a sport because none of my favorite sports teams had to that point done that except in football. And so I stuck with the Canucks, and that is to my detriment, and we'll talk about that more on the hockey live stream coming up Monday. But because I do really like this uniform, the Panthers have knocked it out of the park with their reverse retros, and we'll talk more about their 2022 version. But in terms of their 2020 version, I liked it so much that I bought it, customized it. I bought it as a sweatshirt, excuse me. Customized it to have Luongo on the back. It's the only non-jersey item I have with Roberto Luongo's number on the back. I wear it fairly regularly, and I really like this uniform. I like the chevron piping on the arms. I like the fact that the red shoulders are separated from the rest of the jersey by that gold border. I like that they brought back the original Panther logo on top of blue. This is an A-tier uniform. Nothing about this uniform is detrimental to its appeal, if that makes any sense. Whereas their 2022 version can obviously, and I understand why, can be seen as a controversial pick for the best uniform ever. It's not the best uniform ever. It is the best reverse retro uniform, in my opinion. So we're going to put that one in S tier at the very top of... Here, let's go like this real quick. We're going to put this... and I can't scroll. So I got to drop it in B tier first, and then I'm going to adjust it and put it in S tier. And give me a sec, and I will discuss why that is the case for me. But to me, and actually, this Panther, the original Panthers uniform, reverse retro uniform, is good. I really like it, and I'm actually going to put it above the Devils here. Now let's talk about the 2022. What people don't like about the 2022 version is it's really bright. It's a lot. It's very much. They have the same issues with it that they do with the Miami Heat moving to all of their Miami Vice uniforms. Or you could argue this year's All-Star Game uniforms, even though the reason the All-Star Game uniforms aren't liked this year is because they're bad. But people are turned off to this idea of the Miami Vice color scheme idea coming back. And everything about these Panther uniforms kind of wag that in your face, for lack of a better way to put it. My one qualm about this uniform, and this is going to sound hypocritical because I am going back on a statement I made earlier in this video. This logo on the front of the jersey is a shoulder patch. It's not a great alternate logo. However, in the context of this uniform, it not only works, but it excels. Everything about this jersey to me screams Florida, and that's exactly what the Panthers were going for. This is such a success of branding in making the Florida Panthers feel like Florida's hockey team that even though the Lightning have made the last 3 Stanley Cup finals, when you think Florida hockey, I think of this uniform. This is such a success of visual design that I don't even have a conclusion to that sentence. It not only works for the culture of the team, the culture of the fan base, and the culture of trying to encapsulate everything about Southern Florida that the Panthers have been trying to do for years, even though they play so far outside of downtown Miami. This jersey does all of that for me. And that might be a hot take, and I know people are going to argue about it in the comments if we have enough people in the comments to argue about it. But for me, this is the superior reverse retro jersey. and that's the hill I'm going to die on. But moving on from that, the original Pittsburgh. It's the one with the word mark that just says Pittsburgh. So we go to Penguins, reverse retro 2020. I do not like this as much as the 2022. I think this would look a lot better if it was black. I don't necessarily love the fact that the letters are yellow on top of white, even with the black border around it. It's not a bad uniform otherwise. I don't necessarily love the stripe patterns, but I think they work. To me, this is a low C, high D tier. And my brother's a Penguins fan, and he's probably going to kill me for saying that. I'm going to put it at the very bottom of the C tier. I think it works better than the Canadiens jersey because it screams Pittsburgh to me, but it's still not a great uniform. However, their 2022 uniforms are phenomenal. A tier. This is a logo I've been wanting to see back for years. So have the fans. Everything about this screams Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, it's just a throwback to the uniforms they wore when they won their first Stanley Cup with Mario Lemieux in the 90s. I like the shoulders with all of the different pipings. I think the pipings match really well, and I think they work really well with the Robo Penguin logo. So for that reason, this is going to be an A tier jersey, and I gotta drop it because our list is getting so big. Where do I put it? I'm going to put it yeah, it's that high for me. It's not top, but it's that high. My wife and I were watching the Canucks versus the Penguins the other night, and I asked her what she thought of the jerseys, and only when I asked her did she have to think, oh, I knew something was different. And she doesn't watch hockey regularly, so it's not something that she would really necessarily notice. And to me, that's a good thing, because to her, those look so much like Penguin uniforms, despite how different they are from their normal uniforms, that it's to this uniform's benefit. So that is why they're up so high. Predators. Nashville Predators. I don't like either of them, just an FYI. What I like about their originals is they brought back the original logo and the original jersey design. I'm not a fan of them having yellow as their primary color, but I get why they've kept it. And props to them, because that is a color that no other team in American professional sports, except maybe Columbus Crew, use as a primary color. Yellow is always a secondary color or second primary color. So they're the only Big Four sports franchise to use yellow as the main get. Everything about this uniform is good to me. I'm curious what it would look like if they had secondary piping and then had the shoulders and arms be blue instead of gray. But it works for me. It looks good. To me, it screams Predators. I'm going to go high to mid B, maybe. Let's see how it compares to... I like it better than this Blues jersey. I like... okay, yep, I found a spot for it. I'm putting it right there. However, their new ones are bad. Similar to, and so this is the argument I was making between the Islanders and the Lightning, whereas the Islanders took something that didn't work but could have worked and made it better, and the Lightning took something that didn't work and continued to make it not work. This logo is one that, and I don't speak for Predators fans because I'm not a Predators fan, this is not a good logo. I don't think it should have been brought back, and I especially don't think it should have been brought back over yellow. I think it could have potentially worked over blue, but not great. But they took the original mustard coloring of the original third jersey that this logo was from, and I'm not seeing that jersey anywhere here. They took it and they put it on what is essentially a differently piped version of their current uniform. See how much better that looks? It doesn't look great. And this is one of those uniforms that looks good and would look good without the logo. It's a sad case of one of those. And for that reason, this is going. It's not as bad as the Flames. I'll put it right there. Okay, Rangers. Rangers is an interesting case because it's the same uniform but colored differently. So if we pull both of them up side by side here, which will probably happen, and they're not quite the same. I lied to you. One of them is navy, and one of them is royal blue, the regular Rangers royal blue. Here's why I think the navy works and the royal blue doesn't. This logo works. The Rangers are such a historic franchise that putting a logo on a uniform, which for nearly 60, I'm throwing a number out there. I actually don't know how long the Rangers have not had a crest on their uniforms. It's been a long time. Putting a logo on a uniform needs to be separated from the regular uniform enough that it doesn't damage what is that tradition. Putting the Lady Liberty logo on what is essentially their normal royal blue uniforms, I understand that the piping is different, makes it look wrong.
I found this on the web.
No, Siri, I'm not talking to you. Whereas putting it on navy blue makes it look that much different that it's not going to... It doesn't make it look bad. However, having that navy then, you come across the same issue I brought up earlier where it doesn't necessarily look like a Rangers uniform. And so for that sake, both of these uniforms aren't necessarily as good as they could be. I'm going to put the navy version, and this is personal preference. I'm going to put the navy version below... No, I'm going to put it above the Devils here. And I'm going to put this one in D tier. Right next to the Predators. And that's just simply personal preference, but I've given you the reasons that I think of as to why I don't think those uniforms work. Sabres, bad. The first one is really bad. And this is one of those cases where that is not a jersey logo. And I know we had this discussion with the Panthers, but so much about this uniform looks wrong. And it starts with the logo. It's not a jersey logo. It's a patch logo. They recolored it from the original black and red, and they put it on a uniform with a word mark at the bottom. That's strike two. I don't like word marks at the bottom. The font doesn't bother me that much, but this weird gray bottom that this uniform has is also really bad. This, to me, is an F-tier uniform. And I'm going to put it right there. Nothing about that screams Buffalo Sabres to me except the color scheme. And that's bad because it even says Buffalo on it. However, their new ones, the goat heads... No, I don't want to check my... I got an Apple Watch and I don't need an Apple Watch. I think I'm going to sell it. This is how to... And I don't love these colors. And I don't love the fact that they chose white instead of blue. This is a successful reverse of the classic black goat head uniform, which I own that uniform. It's a good looking jersey. I don't like this weird top blue pipe. And I get that it matches this jersey, but I think it looks weird on a white uniform with blue piping. I think it would look a lot better if the jersey was blue and the piping was white. To me, this is a low C tier jersey. It works a lot better than the other one, but that's really not saying much. But there's a lot missing color-wise from this rather bland uniform. And I am actually going to put this in D tier. And I'm going to put it right there. Senators. We're almost to the end here. We have the Senators. We're going to do... So the Senators are an interesting case because they came out with this reverse retro the same year that they switched their logo and color scheme, right? So if you remember correctly, for about 15 years or so, I think, they had been wearing... No, it would have been a lot longer than 15 years. It was almost closer to 20 years, but they'd been wearing red with a different Senator logo, right? And they switched to the classic original side profile logo with the black color scheme over the red. And they added a reverse retro that basically just brought back the red as the primary. This is a really bland uniform, and the stripes don't match. So this uniform would look better in two ways. If there was white piping around the stripes, and if the piping or if the striping matched so that either there was one big black stripe at the bottom and on both arms, or you kept the double stripe on the arm but made a double stripe at the bottom. Those would be fixes that I would make if I were designing this uniform. The other big faux pas here is the black numbers. This uniform needs white, and it gets it in in terms of a nameplate, but it doesn't get it anywhere else except for the piping around the logo. For that reason, I actually forgot how bad these uniforms are. This is bad. Like, really bad. And I'm going to put it below the Flames because it's so boring. It is bad. And I forgot how bad it was. It's just, there's nothing to it. It's just bland. It's almost an F tier jersey. 2022 isn't good. They brought back that weird like 2006 swoop pattern. It's better. And I like the really fat numbers. To me, that's like, it doesn't look good, but it's like an ironic throwback funny kind of thing. I like the arm stripes, even how thick they are. I don't love the swoop, but this uniform looks a lot better. Again, it would look better with white piping. This is a high D or low C tier uniform, and I'm going to put it no, I'm going to put it next to the goat head. Sharks, bad. The original Sharks reverse retro, I don't like the color gray. I don't like the original Sharks color scheme. I think the Sharks looked best. Actually, they look pretty good right now with the new striping that they have on their new uniforms this year. But I think the best color scheme the Sharks have ever had was when it was teal, black, and orange. Bringing back gray and black with teal as your accent screams bad 90s. To me, that's like Carolina Panthers, get rid of this color scheme kind of thing. There were a lot of cool options you could have done, and instead they brought back not just the worst color scheme they have in their arsenal, but they didn't even throw back to an original cool jersey. Like, look how many different like piping and striping patterns are in this Joe Thornton jersey. That is Joe Thornton, right? No, I'm wrong. I'm so sorry. It kind of looked like him though. But they essentially just brought a generic jersey style and added their worst color scheme to it. And I think the teal numbering over the gray looks really poor. I think it would look better if it was black with teal piping. This is a D tier uniform for me. And I am going to put it... Yeah, I hate the Flames. Sharks' current ones aren't bad. I love the California Golden Seal uniforms. I don't love that teams are usually choosing white as their reverse retro. I don't like that because I think these uniforms would look better as darks. I think having the seal font say Sharks, obviously you're not going to say Seals. First of all, the Sharks don't own that trademark as far as I'm aware. That franchise is now the Dallas Stars. But this style of uniform and the history of the California Golden Seals is iconic to the Bay Area. I understand why they go with it. I think this uniform looks really good, as plain as it is. I think the high stripes are interesting. I don't love that the belly stripe is a different color pattern than the others. I think that is detrimental. So I would say low B, high C. I think this uniform would look a lot better as a dark. And we'll get to the Wild because that's... The Minnesota Wild are the perfect example of that. And of course, I didn't bring my computer charger down here, so you guys are going to have to listen to awkward silence while I go get it. But Sharks, this is going high C tier. Dallas Stars, first one is really, really bad. And I got to remember exactly how bad. Oh, that's really bad. Oh, gosh. Why does it say stars in gray over white? It doesn't work. It's not as bad. Jersey style wise, it's not as bad as I remember it being. One thing they could have done to make it stand out more is have the bottoms of the sleeves and the bottoms of the jersey be like green or black. But they kept it white and they kept it kind of plain. The number, font, and coloring is good. Jersey's rather plain. And the worst possible logo option they went for is having gray piping and gray font with no piping over white. And it doesn't work, and it looks horrible. And this is an F tier uniform. And that's all I got to say about that. It is going just above the Lightning. Current Stars is not as bad. It's not excellent, but it is a step in the right direction. They went away from the star pattern jersey to a more traditional hockey jersey style with the full shoulder sleeve and then the regular three-stripe bottom. It's a pretty solid uniform, actually. B tier for sure. It doesn't look as good in this graphic that I have here, but if we go B tier, I am going to put it above the Capitals. It is an immense improvement. Blues. It's very bold. And I don't love the color yellow, but I have so much admiration for what they went with and how well it does work that this is going high B tier. It's better than their old one. And it is that good. I'm going to put it at the top of B tier. It is not an A tier jersey, but it is bold enough and bright enough and well worked enough to go top of B tier. The current Canucks, the Johnny Canuck. To me, it's the S tier, but in terms of a jersey in general, and we'll get a better picture of it here, it's better than their original. To me, it's an A tier, and I hate the Flames. And it's better than all of those teams. So it's going there. And I say that as a biased Canucks fan. Here's why I like this jersey, right? And let me show you with the numbers. The numbers make it look so much better. So they went for off-white, which is a bold decision. But with the color scheme on the jersey, they took away the Canucks' regular blue and went for a navy. And the green, I can't tell if it's different or not, but it looks more like a teal almost than a green. And they went with the off-white pattern. First of all, the Johnny Canuck logo should be the Canucks' primary logo. We haven't quite worn out the Orca yet, but hopefully in 10 years, when we're finally sick of the Orca and wanting a redesign, Johnny Canuck comes as the permanent logo. It looks so good on the Abbotsford Canucks uniforms, the minor league team. But my favorite thing about this uniform is the old style font on the front. And you typically don't see numbers on the front of hockey jerseys. And these work so well. And then on top of that, you have the captain's patch on the opposite shoulder. And I always love that. I love seeing that on like, what's a good example? The Red Wings uniforms, or essentially any uniform that takes up a lot of space and covers like the right shoulder, well, it would be the wearer's left shoulder. But then having the captain's patch on the opposite side, I always love seeing that. So for me, this is an A-tier uniform. All right, we're getting down to the wire here. Final 6. The Wild. I really liked the original Wild reverse retros when they came out, and I don't think they're bad. However, having the dark version of it available now makes the old ones look a lot worse. I don't think the yellow numbers do it any favors. I like the side striping better than the current green uniforms. And they still look really good. The idea to bring the Wild uniforms and colors out in favor of a North Stars design is something that the fans have wanted for years, and they finally got it, and I'm going to put this in B tier. And where does it belong? I am going to put it above the Predators, but below the Capitals. But then you get to the dark version, and this is what I mean when I say all teams should go for the dark version because it looks so much better. I'm genuine. This is just curiosity. I want to see what those numbers would look like yellow instead of white. I almost wonder if they wouldn't work better, or if they just weren't bordered at all by that yellow. I think the yellow on the white looks a little weird. But otherwise, these are solid uniforms. They look great on the ice. The logo looks really, really good. S tier. S tier for me. I am going to put this at the bottom of S tier, and I am going to run upstairs and grab my computer charger real quick. There's going to be dead noise for about 25 seconds. I will be right back, I promise. Boom, I'm back. I absolutely tripped over my cat on the way, and I still made it, I think, in the time allotted, and just in time to finish up this list. I thought we could make it, but we can't. I appreciate you sticking through dead noise. Okay. I set that there. No, it is A tier, or excuse me, S tier. Oh, is it above the Avalanche? I know I don't like white uniforms, but man, those look so good. No, it is not above the Avalanche. I'm sorry to all my family and friends who are Wild fans. And I'm catching my breath because I ran up those stairs. We're going to save this bad boy till the very end. And we might as well move this Detroit version to the end too. So let's skip to the Coyotes. which, if you're unfamiliar, is actually how they pronounce it at their games, regardless of how you say coyote or coyote. Their marketing department has committed to the phrase coyote. 3 syllables. Yes. The original one is better than their new one. It's very busy. However, unlike the Wild Wing uniform, where it's busy in the middle and busy on the sides, what I like about this uniform is all of its busyness is in a part of the jersey that you're not drawn to. Does that make sense? So despite how busy this jersey is at the bottom, your attention is still always going to be on the logo. And as much as I wish they had the full Kachina instead of just the head, I love the color scheme of this uniform, first of all. And I say that as a person who doesn't love the color orange. I think this uniform looks great. I think it works really well. I think having that unique pattern at the bottom is phenomenal. I like the shoulder patches. I like the font. I like the colors. This is an S tier jersey for me. I know that's a hot take, but to me, the original purple Coyotes Kachina reverse retro is an S tier uniform. The current one is not, for a variety of reasons. What they went for here is a more dulled down, more natural tone style of uniform. It's essentially the same jersey, just with a different color scheme. I think the cacti are slightly different, or they're just bordered differently and it looks different. I don't love the fact that the colors are orange and maroon. I think that looks really tacky. I don't like that they darkened the Kachina head. I think it looks worse. I understand why they did it. They did it to stand out against the backdrop of the uniform. But having the eye be bright and the fur be darker makes the uniform, or makes the logo look weird. This is a low C tier uniform for me. And I'm actually going to put it at the... is it D tier? It is D tier, and I'm going to offer an explanation. The reason that that uniform is D tier, when it's essentially the same uniform as the one I just put in S tier, comes down to colorization. The original works so well in the color design that every detail about the uniform works because of the way it's colored. Whereas in the new uniform, in trying to be different, they have failed to understand what makes the original appealing visually. They have made it tonally ugly. They have, I don't want to say desecrated, but they have denigrated the impact of the logos, the piping, the extra details because of the way they're colored. And because of that simple change, a vast difference in quality of uniform is provided between the two. Does that make sense? That is my reasoning. Moving on, we got 2 more. Thank you all for sticking with it. We've been at this for, let's see here, almost an hour and a half, which is pretty good actually. Detroit's new one. So, it's essentially the same as Chicago's new one. It's got the bold font, the red. The thing I like about Detroit's better than Chicago's, and let's compare these side by side here. I like that Detroit's lettering is not bordered. I like where the letters and the numbers sit. I like that the stripes take up the entire front instead of just like the bottom 2/3, so that the nameplate on the back looks better. Still, I have serious issues with this jersey. A, it's way too minimalist. B, The stripes don't go all the way to the armpit, so it looks really bad if you stretch out the entire uniform. It doesn't look like jersey striping. It looks like they tried to put a big logo on the front. Black doesn't work as a Red Wings color. It just doesn't. Being in Detroit, I think blue actually would, and I know that's kind of controversial to say, but if the Red Wings were to do some kind of crossover idea with the Detroit Pistons, where they used like Pistons blue as an accent color around their logo, I think it could work. I don't know how well it could be implemented. But Detroit has the same problem that the Rangers have, where their uniforms are so iconic that trying to make something new and not desecrate the original has failed twice. So this first one is absolutely a D tier uniform, but I do like it better than Chicago. And I hate the Flames. And to me, it's better than both the Sharks and the Predators. So I'm going to put it there. And lastly, the worst uniform in NHL history, the duct tape logo. You guys can fight in the comments about why this jersey is so bad. I can absolutely give you a reason. This is a white practice uniform that has had numbers put on the front and the back and nothing else. And upon seeing that, the reverse retro team went, how can we add something to it? And for whatever reason they decided in their silly little heads, their talented silly little heads, I like a lot of these uniforms, instead of adding red piping or red stripes or blue, like I just mentioned with the Pistons, or do a Tigers call. I mean, Detroit has so many options historically, culturally, even in sports, that they could have done anything. And instead of doing like a double red stripe pattern on the sides, what they decided to do, and props to them for making the stripes match, they took a medium-sized gray stripe, the same reason I don't like the Stars white uniform, by the way, and they put it as the striping. And that's all they've done. And that's it. And that is why this is the worst uniform in the Reverse Retro series. And to show, we will go over this one more time. F tier, we got Blue Jackets, Flyers, Sabres, Stars, Lightning, Red Wings. And then going backwards in reverse order from worst to best in the D tier, Senators, Maple Leafs, Blackhawks, Flames, Sharks, Predators, Red Wings, Rangers, Golden Knights, Bruins, Flyers, Blue Jacket. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm stuttering on logos. Sabres, Senators, Coyotes, Islanders, Oilers, Capitals, Canadians. C tier, bottom to top. Penguins, almost said Rockies. Avalanche, Blackhawks, Maple Leafs, Kings, Bruins, Canes, Ducks, Oilers, Kings, Devils, Rangers, Lightning, Sharks. B tier, bottom to top. Jets, Ducks, Jets again. Canucks, Blues, Predators, Wild, Capitals, Stars, Islanders, Hartford Whalers, a.k.a. the Carolina Hurricanes. That sounds so weird to say out loud. St. Louis Blues. A tier, bottom to top. Kraken, looks so good. Flames, looks really good. Still hate the Flames. Canadians, looks really good. Vegas, solid. Devils, really good. Canucks, my team. Penguins, looks phenomenal. Panthers, perfect. So pristinely well put together, but not supreme. The supreme come down to 4. At the bottom, the original 2020 purple Kachina Coyotes reverse retro uniform. Third, the dark version of the Minnesota Wild North Stars throwback. Second, the white with burgundy fleur-de-lis piping Colorado Avalanche Quebec Nordiques throwbacks. And number one, for the reasons that I have given in this video, the current 2022 Florida Panthers light blue reverse retro alternates. And that's all I got for you. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon.